Hi again. I would like to emphasize program readability very early in this course. Particularly in this video, I'm going to talk about the use of comments and white spaces to improve program readability. I'll also talk a little bit more about the cout statement. But first, why is it absolutely important to make our programs as easy to read and understand as possible? Well, as a professional software developer, you will likely be working with a team of multiple people, and you will be writing software over a period of months and perhaps even years. And you will likely need to maintain your code for a number of years as well. Maintaining the code basically means fixing issues, adding features, modifying features, and so on. So your code needs to be as easy to read as possible so that your teammates can easily understand and use your code. Also, if you need to come back to your code a few months later, perhaps to do some change, you would like to quickly figure out how you wrote a given piece of code and how to modify it or add to it. Another important issue is the structure of your program. Your program needs to be structured in a way such that if you need to make a change to a piece of code that you wrote somewhere, you will not end up changing a ton of other pieces of code as a result. Now, many programmers, especially beginners, focus on getting the code to function as expected, which is absolutely important. But it's also equally important that the code is readable and maintainable. In fact, even if you write a code that works perfectly fine, but it's not readable or it's not well structured, your team leader will likely reject your code during what's called a code review, and you will likely be asked to go back and change it and make it better readable. So as we progress in this course, I'll keep pointing out ways of making your code more readable and better structured. Now, let's see how we can use comments and white spaces to improve the readability of our program. Comments are pieces of text that we write within our program that the compiler will simply ignore. Now, the compiler ignores them because they're not meant to be converted into machine code and eventually get executed, but rather they're meant to be used, for example, to explain pieces of code that are not obvious, or to document our assumptions about a given piece of code, or whatever reason we think is appropriate. Now, C++ provides us with two types of comments. The first type is called a single line comment, which starts with a double forward slash. So once we have these double forward slash, the compiler will simply ignore everything all the way to the end of the line. So I can write here whatever I like, something like this is a single line comment. Now these comments don't need to be on their own line. I can actually use them here, for example, to explain what this code is doing, something like print statement. Now I must say that, when the code is just very obvious like this, we don't necessarily need to provide comments. That would be just basically over commenting our code. But this is just demonstration. Later on we may encounter a line of code that is not very obvious, so a quick comment like this to explain what it's doing might be very helpful. Now the second type of comments is called a multi-line comment, and a multi-line comment starts with a / asterisk and ends with */ and anything in between is considered a comment. So I can write here, this is a multi-line comment, and it basically spans multiple lines. Now the next thing that I want to talk about is white spaces. White spaces include a new line, which you can get by hitting enter, a single space, or a tab. Now for the most part, the compiler ignores the white spaces. So this program would still work if I move this, let's say here, if I remove this tab, for example, and even the new line, if I remove this here and move this one here and move this here, for example, this program would still compile and work as expected. However, it's not readable. For example, it's not clear which statements belong to the main function. That means which statements are within the body of the main function by just looking at this code. Also, it's not clear whether we have the opening brace and the closing brace because it's kind of hidden somewhere within these lines. Now let's go back to the code that we had earlier. So we basically had no spaces here. We had this statement here with an indentation. We have also this statement here with an indentation, and we have this brace moved all the way to a new line. Now if you just look at this program, it's quite clear that both of these statements are within the body of the main function, and we have not missed any of these opening or closing braces. In fact, most code editors can be configured to help with this kind of formatting. For example, I have already configured this code editor to format statements as soon as I add the semicolon. So if I have it this way and I just add a semicolon, it's automatically properly indented here. Also, once I hit save, so let me just do some formatting issues. So once I hit save, the editor tries to format the entire file. Now it's not perfect, but it certainly helps. I would like to end this video by talking a little bit more about the cout statement. I can write multiple cout statements to output multiple things to the screen. For example, I can copy this and paste it here, and I can change this text to something like, I love programming. Now if I save this, compile it, and run it, I'm going to get the first text, hello world, and then a new line, because we have a backslash in here, so we go to a new line, and then I love programming, and then a new line based on this because I have a backslash in here, and then this text that is coming from the terminal is displayed on the new line. Now if I'd like to add multiple new lines here, I can just go ahead and add more backslash n's here. So if I just go ahead and compile this, run it again, as you can see, I'm having multiple new lines here. And if I just remove this completely and compile it again, run it again, there is no new line between hello world and I love programming. So the fact that these basically are two separate cout statements doesn't automatically add an output to the end of the line. So if I don't have an end line here, there isn't going to be an end line on the display. The computer does exactly what you asked it to do. So if you want a new line here, then you have to add a new line here. Another thing we can do is that we can output multiple things using a single cout statement. For example, I can cut this part and remove this statement completely and come here, add these double angular brackets, and add this text here. And this would produce the same exact output. It would produce hello world and then a new line, and then I love programming and then a new line. This double angular bracket, by the way, is called stream insertion operator. And what it does, it takes the stuff that we put here and insert it into the cout, and cout is connected to the screen. So whatever we have here goes to the screen. If I want to output multiple things, then all what I need to do is just add more of these insertion operators and then add the text. So this is going to add this first, and then it's going to add this next. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.